Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to have you here as we explore educational systems and policies in two fascinating nations. Today's focus is on the United States and South Africa, and we'll be comparing how their education systems are structured and how policies shape them. Over the next few slides, we'll look at key differences, similarities, and the unique challenges each country faces. Let's get started. Let's start by looking at the introduction and context. In this section, I want to emphasize the importance of understanding the background before diving into the specifics. We'll explore the key points that set the stage for the entire presentation. It's crucial to see how these foundational ideas connect to the overall theme, giving us a clear perspective on why this topic matters. By establishing this context early on, we can better appreciate the subsequent details and insights that will follow. So, think of this as laying the groundwork that will support our entire discussion. Today, I'll be giving an overview of U.S. education. We'll look at how the system is structured, governed, and how curriculum and assessments are managed. This will help us understand the core elements that shape education in the United States. Next, we'll develop our comparative thinking skills by examining how the U.S. education system compares with South Africa's across different historical periods. This will allow us to see both similarities and differences over time. We'll also explore some key education concepts such as decentralization, which refers to how authority is spread across various levels. Equity, meaning fair access and opportunities for all students. Accountability, or how schools are held responsible for outcomes. And reform, which involves ongoing efforts to improve the system. By the end of this, our learning outcomes are that you should be able to describe the main features of U.S. education and relate them to broader historical and social contexts. Finally, the purpose of this presentation is to deepen our understanding of how different education systems operate and evolve, helping us think critically about education in both the U.S. and South Africa. Let's take a closer look at the United States education system. It's quite complex and diverse, reflecting the size and variety of the country itself. At its core, it's built around multiple levels, starting from elementary school, then middle school or junior high, and progressing to high school. Beyond high school, we have higher education options like colleges and universities, which offer a wide range of programs and degrees. One key point to highlight is how decentralized the system is. Education policies and funding often vary significantly from state to state and even district to district. This means that the quality and emphasis on certain subjects can differ quite a bit depending on where you are. Another important concept is the role of standards and assessments. These are designed to ensure a certain level of proficiency across the board, but they also bring up ongoing debates about testing and educational equity. Connecting this to our overall theme, understanding how this system functions is crucial because it influences everything from workforce development to social mobility. It's a foundation that shapes individuals' futures and, ultimately, the future of the nation. Decentralized governance means that education in the U.S. is primarily managed by individual states and local school districts. This setup results in a wide variety of policies and curricula, reflecting regional priorities and community values. It allows for local control, but can also lead to inconsistencies across the country. When it comes to funding, public schools depend heavily on state and local taxes, especially property taxes. This creates significant disparities, as wealthier communities can invest more in their schools, while less affluent areas may struggle to provide the same level of resources. These funding differences can impact the quality of education students receive depending on where they live. Another important aspect is the diversity of educational options available to families. Beyond traditional public schools, parents can choose private schools, charter schools, or even homeschooling. This variety helps meet different needs and preferences, giving families more control over their children's education. The federal government also plays a role, although more limited compared to states and local districts. It supports education through funding initiatives, enforcing civil rights laws to ensure equal access, and establishing national education standards and policies. All of these elements together shape the U.S. education system, an intricate mix of local control, funding challenges, diverse choices, and federal support. This overview highlights how decentralized governance influences the overall landscape and underscores the importance of addressing disparities to improve educational equity across the nation. Let's start by looking at early childhood education. This stage includes preschool and kindergarten, and the main focus here is on building foundational skills like literacy and numeracy, as well as encouraging social development. It's really about setting the stage for lifelong learning. Moving on to elementary and secondary education, these are the years where students dive into core subjects such as math, science, language arts, and social studies. This phase is crucial because it prepares students for the next steps in their educational journey and ultimately culminates in earning a high school diploma, which is essential for many future paths. Then we have post-secondary education. This includes options like community colleges and universities, where students can earn degrees or vocational qualifications. It's about deepening knowledge and skills in specific areas, opening up more career opportunities. What's really interesting about the U.S. education system is its flexibility. Learners can move between these pathways, whether they start in one, switch to another, or combine different types of education, allowing for lifelong learning opportunities. This flexibility is a key strength, supporting diverse aspirations and changing career landscapes. Overall, the structure of education in the United States is designed to be adaptable and comprehensive, guiding learners from early childhood through lifelong education, all connected by the goal of fostering continuous growth and development. When we talk about the range of early programs in the U.S., we're really referring to the variety of options available to support young children's development from birth up to 5 years old. This includes daycare centers, preschools, pre-kindergarten programs, and kindergarten, all designed to lay a strong foundation for later learning. One key initiative worth highlighting is Head Start. This is a federal program specifically aimed at helping low-income children access quality education, health services, nutrition, and family engagement. Its goal is to give these children a fair start and to support their overall well-being. Another important aspect is play-based learning. Here, the focus is on creating engaging environments where children learn through play, storytelling, and physical activity. This approach helps develop not just their cognitive skills, but also motor abilities and social interactions, which are all crucial at this stage. Lastly, early childhood education emphasizes the importance of early intervention. Research shows that supporting children early on, especially in smaller, more supportive classroom settings, can lead to better academic outcomes in the long run. The idea is to nurture their growth early, setting them up for success later in school and beyond. All these programs and strategies are interconnected, illustrating how comprehensive and vital early childhood education is to shaping a child's future. So let's take a closer look at the structure of education. In elementary education, you typically have one teacher handling multiple subjects in a single classroom. This setup allows for a more integrated learning experience, especially at a young age. When we move to secondary education, things become a bit more specialized. Here, students are taught by subject specialists, and there are multiple classrooms dedicated to different subjects, which helps tailor education more closely to students' interests and future plans. Now, regarding compulsory schooling, it's usually funded by state and local governments, which means that public schooling is free for learners. This ensures broad access to education. Laws generally require students to attend school until at least age 16, emphasizing the importance of a minimum level of education for all. Assessment and progression are also key parts of the system. Students are evaluated through grades and standardized tests, which help measure their understanding and skills. Moving to the next grade depends on how well students perform and whether they're ready academically. This system aims to ensure that students are prepared for the challenges ahead. Finally, extracurricular activities such as sports, clubs, and community service play a vital role. They enrich student life beyond academics, supporting the development of skills like teamwork, leadership, and social responsibility. These activities contribute to a more well-rounded education, which ties back to our overall theme of fostering holistic development in learners. Let's take a closer look at how curriculum control works at the state and local levels. Essentially, these levels develop standards for core subjects like math, science, and language arts. This means they decide what students should learn in these fundamental areas, shaping what teachers focus on in the classroom. Moving on to assessment methods, schools use a combination of classroom assignments and standardized tests. These assessments not only influence students' grades, but also play a significant role in holding schools accountable for student performance. It's a way to ensure educational standards are being met. However, there's an ongoing debate about testing. While testing helps promote accountability, it can also lead to a narrowing of the curriculum. Teachers might focus more on test-related content, which can limit the breadth of what students are exposed to. Plus, it can increase pressure on both learners and teachers, which can impact the overall learning experience. All of this ties back to our overall theme, balancing standards, assessments, and the quality of education. It's about finding that right mix to ensure students are learning effectively without feeling overwhelmed. So, when it comes to the governance of education in the U.S., the structure is quite layered and complex. First, we have the state-level authority, which is really central. States hold the primary responsibility for setting education policy, establishing curriculum standards, licensing teachers, and overseeing assessments. This means that most of the rules and standards that schools follow are determined at the state level, making states the main drivers of education quality and consistency. Then, we have local school districts, which operate at a more community-focused level. These districts are responsible for implementing the policies set at the state level, managing day-to-day operations, hearing teachers, and making decisions about budgets. Interestingly, these districts are governed by elected boards, which means local communities have a say in how their schools are run. On the federal side, the government plays a different but equally important role. It provides funding to support schools, enforces civil rights laws to ensure equal access and non-discrimination, and promotes national education priorities like innovation and access. Bringing all these levels together creates a multi-layered governance structure. While this setup encourages innovation, because different regions can try new approaches, it also presents challenges. Coordination can be difficult across different levels, and disparities may arise between regions, leading to inequality in educational opportunities. Ultimately, understanding this multi-level system helps us see how policies are shaped and implemented across the country, which is crucial for addressing the broader themes of equity, quality, and innovation in education. Let's take a closer look at the different types of institutions involved in U.S. post-secondary education. You'll find community colleges, four-year colleges, universities, and vocational schools, all serving a wide range of educational needs. Each type plays a unique role in helping students achieve their goals. When it comes to degree programs, institutions offer a variety of options, including associate, bachelor's, master, and doctoral degrees. These programs often have different missions and levels of selectivity, allowing students to choose paths that best fit their ambitions and circumstances. Admissions criteria typically include high school performance, standardized tests, and extracurricular activities. These factors help institutions select students who are prepared and motivated to succeed, but the process can vary depending on the school. Funding for post-secondary education comes from multiple sources: tuition, government support, and private contributions. Financial aid is also a crucial part of making education more affordable for students, helping to reduce financial barriers and open opportunities for more people. Overall, post-secondary education in the U.S. is diverse and adaptable, designed to meet the varied needs of students and support their academic and career aspirations. Let's take a moment to look at the South African education system through a historical lens. This slide highlights how the system has evolved over time. Understanding this history is crucial because it helps us see where the current challenges and opportunities come from. Historically, education in South Africa was heavily influenced by colonial and apartheid policies, which created deep inequalities. These policies favored white students while marginalizing non-white populations, leading to disparities that still affect the system today. Post-1994, with the end of apartheid, there was a significant push towards transformation and equity. Efforts were made to overhaul policies and improve access for all racial groups, but the legacy of the past still lingers in areas like resource distribution and quality of education. By comparing the past and present, we can better understand the ongoing challenges and the importance of continuous reform. This historical perspective ties into our overall theme of assessing progress and identifying areas needing further attention to achieve an equitable education system for all South Africans. Let's take a closer look at community-based learning in pre-colonial South Africa. Education during this time was quite informal and deeply rooted in indigenous knowledge. People learned through storytelling, which was a vital way to pass down history, morals, and life lessons, and through participation in daily activities, making learning a natural part of life. Moving on to the holistic curriculum, it wasn't just about academic skills. It focused on essential survival skills, moral values, social responsibilities, and fostering a strong sense of cultural identity. Everything was interconnected, and the education aimed to prepare individuals not just for personal success, but for their roles within the community. When it comes to practical competence, the emphasis was on doing and social recognition rather than formal testing. Skills were demonstrated through practice, and approval came from the community itself, which valued real-world ability over certificates or exams. Finally, understanding the indigenous educational legacy helps us see the richness of pre-colonial knowledge systems. This history offers valuable insights into indigenous perspectives and highlights how colonial education often marginalized these traditions. Recognizing this legacy allows us to appreciate the depth and resilience of indigenous learning methods, which continue to influence educational practices today. Let's take a closer look at the origins of missionary education in South Africa. Missionaries were among the first to introduce formal schooling, and their focus was primarily on Christianity, literacy, and Western cultural values. This was part of their broader effort to spread their religious beliefs and Western ideas. Moving on to colonial education policies, these were designed to promote European history and languages, which often meant excluding indigenous knowledge and perspectives. This approach limited opportunities for Africans to access a truly inclusive education and reinforced colonial dominance. Now, when we consider racial inequality in education, it becomes clear that access was far from equal. Education was racially segregated, which not only reflected but also reinforced social divisions and control during the colonial period. This segregation kept different racial groups apart and maintained existing power structures. At the same time, it's important to recognize that missionary education had a dual role. On one hand, it provided literacy and opportunities for social mobility. On the other hand, it also led to cultural alienation, as indigenous cultures were often dismissed or marginalized. This dual impact played a significant role in shaping societal inequalities. So, when we look at missionary and colonial education as a whole, we see a complex picture. Education as a tool for both empowerment and oppression, deeply intertwined with the broader themes of colonialism and social stratification. Let's talk about the segregated education system under apartheid. This system truly institutionalized racial segregation, meaning that there were completely separate schools for Black and white learners. But more than just physical separation, the resources allocated to these schools were vastly unequal. White schools received far more funding, better facilities, and resources, while Black schools were severely underfunded and limited in what they could offer. The curricula also reflected these inequalities. Black learners were often only taught basic manual skills, which restricted their opportunities and future mobility. In contrast, white learners had access to well-funded, comprehensive education designed to prepare them for leadership roles and higher positions in society. Despite these oppressive measures, there was significant resistance. Students and teachers fought against this unjust system, standing up for equality and fair access to education. Unfortunately, the legacy of this apartheid-era education still lingers today, affecting issues of inequality and access in South Africa. This history reminds us how deeply education systems can influence societal structures, and why ongoing efforts for equitable access are so vital. After 1994, South Africa embarked on significant education reforms aimed at dismantling the legacy of apartheid in education. The goal was to establish a unified, democratic education system that truly serves all students. A central focus of these reforms was on promoting equity and inclusivity, ensuring that every learner, regardless of their background, has equal access to quality education. The new policies emphasized non-racialism, human rights, and social justice, reflecting the broader ideals of a democratic South Africa. However, despite these positive changes, there are still challenges. Resource inequality remains a major issue, with some schools still lacking basic facilities and materials. Learner performance gaps persist, often along socioeconomic lines, making it harder for some students to succeed. Socioeconomic barriers continue to hinder access and achievement for many learners. When we compare South Africa's system to the U.S., one key difference stands out. South Africa has a more centralized education system, where the government has significant control over governance and curriculum development. In contrast, the U.S. system is more decentralized, with individual states and districts having considerable autonomy. This structural difference influences how policies are implemented and how education reforms are carried out in each country. Overall, these reforms post-1994 represent a crucial effort to create a more just and equitable education landscape, aligning with the broader themes of social justice and nation building in South Africa. Let's take a moment to look at the governance structures in these two countries. In the United States, the education system is quite decentralized, meaning that states have a lot of control over how education is managed and delivered. This allows for regional flexibility and local innovation. In contrast, South Africa operates under a centralized national policy framework, where the government sets broad policies that guide the entire education system across the country. Now, when we consider the historical contexts, it's clear that education in both countries has historically been used as a tool for social control, often reinforcing social inequalities. However, their reform efforts have diverged significantly. The U.S. has focused on reforms aimed at increasing accountability and providing more choices for families, such as charter schools and school vouchers. Meanwhile, South Africa's reforms have centered on redress and transformation, seeking to address the inequalities left by apartheid and promote equity in education. Moving on to ongoing challenges, both systems continue to grapple with issues related to inequality, access, and quality of education. These challenges remind us that education doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's deeply rooted in the history and power dynamics of each society. Finally, when we compare the two, it becomes evident that while their approaches and priorities differ, both countries' education systems reflect broader social and political contexts. Understanding these differences helps us appreciate the complexities involved in shaping education policies and reforms worldwide.